What if you were to learn that the world you see, the solid ground beneath your feet, the warm morning sun on your skin, and the very circumstances of your life is not a fixed, separate reality you were born into, but a three-dimensional echo of a secret held deep within you? What if the greatest lie ever told was not uttered by another, but was the whisper you tell yourself in moments of doubt, the belief that you are merely a passenger in this universe? For generations, we have been taught a gentle but passive fairy tale. We were told to attract our desires, to sit and wait, with hopeful hearts for the universe to bestow its gifts. We learned to be a magnet, hoping to pull fortune from some vast, distant ocean. But that is a profound misunderstanding of our nature, a sacred lullaby that has kept our true power asleep. Today, that slumber ends. You are not a magnet. You are a lighthouse. You do not attract the world. You project it. You do not wait for reality to arrive. You are broadcasting it into being with every silent vibration of your core. This is the first and most vital awakening. Reality is projection, not attraction. The world you experience is the solidification of your inner atmosphere, the material crystallization of the vibrational signature you persistently hold. To change your life is not to rearrange the furniture in the room, but to change the very frequency of the light that illuminates the room itself. The key to your destiny lies not in frantic outer action, but in the deliberate mastery of your inner frequency. For thought shapes matter, and intention directs the flow of creation. Whoever masters the inner atmosphere commands the outer circumstances. You did not come here to be a consumer of circumstance, a receiver of fate, or a victim of chance. Your original nature, your sacred blueprint, is that of a cosmic architect. You were born to be a projector, a creator, a sovereign broadcaster. This power is not something you must seek or earn. It is your birthright, a memory waiting to be reclaimed from the amnesia of ordinary life. It is not your fleeting thoughts or your momentary wishes that create your world. The architect of your reality is your core vibrational state, the silent, constant frequency you embody even in your sleep. It is your vibrational identity, the signature that the universe reads and responds to with unwavering precision. And it must respond. When your frequency is pure and consistent enough, the universe has no choice but to comply. This is not a spiritual metaphor or a hopeful philosophy. This is a physical law of energy as immutable as gravity. The universe does not operate on chance. It operates on resonance. Therefore, true growth is not the acquisition of more knowledge, but the dismantling of ignorance. And this ignorance is not a lack of information, but a profound forgetting of your own creative sovereignty. The journey of awakening is not an outward quest for answers, but an inward journey to dismantle the forgetting and return to your original function. So let this be the moment of the great shift. Turn your gaze away from the outer world, from its signs, its permissions, its echoes. The search is over. Look within, for you are the point of origin for all that you experience. Stop begging, start commanding, stop demanding, start emitting, stop praying for the light. Realize you are the source of the dawn. This book is not a collection of secrets. It is a mirror reflecting the power you have forgotten. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The Weaver and the Clay. In a valley hidden behind misty mountains where time seemed to slow to the rhythm of the earth and sky, there lived a potter named Elara. She crafted pottery not just with her hands, but with her very soul. Her workshop, a small house of stone and wood, always carried the scent of damp earth and smoldering firewood. Elara had a desire, a quiet obsession, to create the perfect vessel for the kingdom's upcoming summer solstice ceremony, a vase that could hold the light of the sun itself. She had the blueprint in her mind, a graceful form, curves as soft as a dancer's, and a jade-green glaze that shimmered like a morning lake. Her thought was crystal clear, but every time she placed her hands on the potter's wheel, something went wrong. The clay seemed to fight her. Sometimes the vessel would suddenly warp in the final moments. Other times it would crack in the kiln, shattering into pieces like a broken dream. Frustration began to gnaw at Alara. She worked day and night, her hands calloused and weary. The harder she tried, the more she failed. Her energy, instead of being one of pure creation, was now tainted with anxiety and fear. She feared she wasn't good enough, that she would disappoint everyone, that the perfect vase would only ever exist in her imagination. Each failure reinforced that fear, and the clay strangely seemed to sense her unease and respond in kind. The tension in her soul was transferring into the material, making it rigid and brittle. One afternoon, as Alara sat on the floor staring in despair at a pile of ruined pottery, an old traveler with kind eyes stopped by her workshop. He didn't ask about her failures. Instead, he quietly picked up a small piece of clay, rolled it in his palm, and said, "Clay does not listen to the commands of the hands, child. It listens to the song in your heart. When your heart sings a song of lack and fear, the clay can only break." His words were a ray of light through the fog in Alara's mind. She realized her mistake. She had been trying to force matter to obey her will, instead of inviting it into form through a state of inner harmony. The next day, Alara did not rush to her work. She sat down at her wheel and closed her eyes. She didn't think about making the vase. Instead, she allowed herself to feel the existence of the finished vase as if it were already real. She felt the coolness of the glaze under her fingertips, pictured the sunlight dancing on its surface, and felt the deep joy, peace, and gratitude of her work being exquisitely complete. She bathed herself in that feeling, letting it fill every cell in her body. Her energy shifted, the anxiety dissolved, replaced by an unshakable faith. When she opened her eyes and placed her hands on a new lump of clay, she felt a difference. Her hands moved with a gentle confidence. The clay felt soft and responsive, rising and shaping itself to her touch, not as a slave, but as a synchronized dance partner. This time there was no resistance. The vase took shape flawlessly, and when it was pulled from the kiln, its glaze glowed with a radiant jade green that even Alara had never seen before. It was not just a vase. It was a vibration made manifest. The law of creation. In the infinite expanse of the universe, nothing is random, and the reality we touch is merely a symphony of solidified vibrations. Alara's story is not a miracle, but the operation of a fundamental law. Matter is solidified vibration. Every form you see, touch, or perceive in the physical world is not the ultimate reality. It is simply vibration that has been slowed down and condensed through an internal process of projection. Nothing exists in material form that was not first a vibration. Alara's vase existed as a frequency of perfection in her mind and heart before it took shape from the clay. Persistence turns vibration into reality. Any vibration, when held with enough intensity and consistency, will inevitably become form. The power lies not in a fleeting thought, but in the persistent holding of a certain frequency. Alara's repeated failures were also proof of this law. She was persistently holding the vibration of anxiety, and the universe responded by consistently delivering anxious results. Only when she persistently held the vibration of success did her reality change. Not all vibrations have creative power. A vibration only becomes generative when it is anchored by two factors: awakened will, focused intention, and stabilized emotion, consistent energy. Alara had the will, but her emotions were unstable. Without both, a vibration will dissipate and lack the density to create form. The universe operates by resonance. The universe does not listen to your pleas. It resonates with and responds to the frequency you are broadcasting. Reality doesn't happen to you. It is structured from the vibrational atmosphere you radiate. The clay wasn't resisting Alara, it was perfectly resonating with her tension. The lesson from the arena. The story is true not only for the artist, but also for the warrior. In the same kingdom there was a young knight named Kael. He was a man of extraordinary skill and strength, yet he always failed in the final match of the annual tournament. Year after year he was the runner-up. Kael trained relentlessly, his will as hard as steel, but deep down he did not vibrate at the frequency of a champion. He vibrated at the frequency of someone trying to become a champion. Kael's dominant vibration was one of longing and fear of failure. He entered the arena with the image of victory in his mind, but his heart beat to the rhythm of doubt. He wasn't living as a winner. He was recycling his past failures. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, was simply mirroring what he was broadcasting, a life of almost successful efforts. Having heard the story of Alara's vase, Kael sought her out. Alara didn't teach him swordsmanship. She simply handed him a piece of clay and said, "Feel the stillness within it. Before it becomes anything, it simply is. You do not fight for the title. You must become the champion in your soul before your sword can declare it." Kael understood. He spent the days before the tournament not in frantic practice, but in quiet stillness. He did not beg for victory. He closed his eyes and felt the aura of a champion around him. He felt the respect of the crowd, the bedrock of confidence, the peace that comes from knowing his own worth. He became the champion from the inside out. When Kael stepped into the arena this time, everything was different. There was no tension in his shoulders, no desperation in his eyes. Only a deadly calm. He fought not with aggression, but with an artistic flow, and this time, when the final match ended, it was his arm that was raised in victory. He didn't win the title. He simply allowed the outer form to catch up to the truth that already existed within him. Mastering the creative formula. Thought, emotion, will. You are not a passive observer of your life. You are the creative center of your own reality. The stories of Alara and Kael reveal the timeless formula. Thought is the architect. It drafts the detailed blueprint for what you desire. Emotion is the builder. It provides the energy and the materials to bring the blueprint to life. A blueprint without energy is just an empty piece of paper. Will is the guardian. It maintains focus, keeping the builder on task and protecting the project from doubt and fear until it is complete. To understand and operate this trio is to claim your creative power. You are not the observer. You are the architect. Practice tapping into your vibration. Find a quiet place where you will not be disturbed for at least 15 minutes. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Choose one simple thing you truly desire in your life. Don't pick something enormous for now. It could be a feeling of peace for one day, a joyful conversation with a loved one, or the inspiration to complete a small task. Now temporarily set aside all thoughts of how to get it. Instead, ask yourself, if I already had this, how would I feel? Allow that feeling to rise. Is it joy, relief, gratitude, contentment? Let the emotion spread through your body. Smile into it. Breathe with it. Hold this emotional state for a few minutes. There's no need to force it. Just rest in it gently, as if you were bathing in a warm current. This is you broadcasting a deliberate vibration. When you feel ready, slowly open your eyes. Do not worry about the outcome. You have planted a vibrational seed. Trust that it will sprout at the perfect time. Practice this daily. You are learning the language of the universe. You are learning to become the master weaver of your own life's tapestry. Chapter 2. The Unwavering Arrow. In the capital city, in a tall, silent scriptorium, where light filtered through stained glass windows, there was a scholar named Liam. He was the keeper and compiler of the kingdom's most important records. Liam's intellect was as sharp as a razor, his prose as elegant as poetry. The king had given him a task of the highest importance to draft a peace treaty with a neighboring kingdom, an ancestral enemy, to end centuries of conflict. Liam worked tirelessly. He studied every law, every precedent. He created a logically perfect document with fair terms and irrefutable arguments. The intellectual content of his work was peace and reconciliation. Yet every time the draft was presented during negotiations, it failed. An invisible suspicion permeated the air. Minor disagreements ballooned into major obstacles. The other kingdom's delegation always found reasons to refuse, sensing a lack of sincerity they could not name. Liam was baffled and enraged. He concluded that the opposition was stubborn and warmongering. He didn't realize the problem wasn't on the parchment he so carefully inscribed. The problem lay deep within himself. Though his mind was architecting peace, his heart was secretly vibrating at the frequency of resentment. He had grown up with stories of the enemy's cruelty. The losses of his forefathers were etched into his blood. He wrote of trust, yet felt suspicion. He wrote of forgiveness, yet felt indignation. There was a terrible inner conflict, a civil war between his mind and heart. And his treaty, however beautiful, was an empty vessel devoid of life force. It carried the vibration of discord. One day, while walking in the royal gardens to soothe his mind, Liam again met the old traveler who had visited Alara's workshop. The traveler spoke not of politics or war. He simply pointed in silence toward an archer practicing in the distance. The archer drew his bow, took aim, and the arrow flew, striking the bullseye dead center. "Look," the traveler said, his voice low and warm. "The archer's mind chooses the target. His will draws the bowstring, but it is the stillness in his heart that keeps his hand steady. If his heart trembled with fear or hesitation, the arrow would always miss its mark, no matter how clear the target or how strong the bow." The words struck Liam like an arrow of truth, piercing his awareness. He was the archer with the trembling heart. He had been trying to shoot an arrow of peace from a bow of resentment. Liam returned to his scriptorium, but he did not write another word. He put away his quills and parchment. For many days he simply sat in silence. He didn't try to think about peace. He allowed himself to feel it. He pictured the children of both kingdoms playing together in the fields. He felt the relief of the mothers and wives as their loved ones returned home safely. He breathed in the atmosphere of reconciliation, letting its warmth heal the scars of resentment in his heart. Gradually, the internal contradiction within him dissolved. For the first time, his mind and heart were singing the same song. When Liam sat down to write the treaty again, the words flowed differently. They were simpler, more humble, yet they carried the weight of sincerity. When the new draft was presented, a miraculous shift occurred. The silence in the negotiation chamber was no longer one of suspicion, but of deep listening. The opposing delegation could feel the change. They weren't just reading the terms, they were feeling the vibration of truth behind them. The treaty was signed swiftly, not by the persuasion of logic, but by the resonance of hearts that were ready for peace. The creative triangle. Liam's story reveals a deeper truth. A thought only has power when it ceases to be an isolated idea in the brain. It must become a command broadcast by your entire being. A thought's power is in its frequency, not its content. A thought does not derive its creative power from its logic or beauty. Its true power lies in its vibrational frequency. A thought is merely a seed. It is emotional energy that provides the fertile soil and sunlight for that seed to grow. A thought of wealth wrapped in a feeling of lack will only create more lack. Mastering the creative triangle, mind, heart, will. A thought only becomes effective when three centers of power are unified. The mind, clarity, to hold a clear image or an idea undistracted by noise. This is the archer identifying the target. The heart, emotional power, to feel the idea as if it were already true, infusing it with life force and intensity. This is the stillness and faith in the archer's heart. The will, directional force, to hold that thought and feeling steady, unwavering in the face of outer challenges. This is the act of drawing the bowstring and holding it steady until the arrow is released. When these three align, a thought becomes an unwavering arrow. It is a creative command, and the universe has no choice but to obey. Internal contradiction is the enemy of creation. The single greatest reason that affirmations, visualizations, and desires fail is internal dissonance, just as Liam experienced. When the mind thinks one thing but the heart feels another, doubt, fear, resentment, the energy cancels itself out. Where there is contradiction, there is no creation, only chaos and exhaustion. The silent prayer of the merchant. In the bustling city market, there was a merchant named Isolde. Her small textile stall was always neat. Every morning, Isolde would mutter affirmations she had learned from a passerby. "I am wealthy. Customers flock to me. My business is thriving." She thought of prosperity, but when a customer left without buying, her heart would sink with worry about the bills she had to pay. She would look at the larger stalls with a secret pang of envy. Her conscious thoughts spoke of abundance, but her unconscious feelings screamed of scarcity. These chronic fears and feelings of lack were her truly sustained thoughts, and therefore had far greater creative power than her superficial affirmations. Her life repeated the same script, working hard, but only ever having just enough. One day she overheard a conversation between Kael, the knight, and Elara, the potter. They spoke not of swords or clay, but of feeling the joy of victory before the battle, and feeling the beauty of the vase before it is formed. Isolde had an epiphany. She realized what she was doing wrong. From that day on, Isolde changed her morning ritual. Instead of muttering empty words, she took a few moments of silence. She didn't try to attract customers. She focused on generating and feeling gratitude. She was grateful for the beautiful textiles in her stall, grateful for having a place to trade, grateful even for the customers who only came to look. She cultivated the feeling of abundance and joy from what she already had. She was unifying her mind, heart, and will into a single vibration: gratitude. The energy in her stall changed. It no longer radiated needy desire, but a warm, welcoming presence. Customers began to stop by not just for the textiles, but because it felt good to be there. Her sales increased naturally without struggle. She had learned to think with her whole being, turning creative thought into a vibrational ritual. A single thought of "I am grateful," sustained by the fire of sincere emotion, became more valuable than 1,000 empty affirmations. Practice the unification ritual of the creative triangle. Choose your arrow. The mind, select a single goal or intention you wish to manifest. Write it down as a short, clear, present tense statement. For example, "I live in peace and harmony." Ignite the arrow. The heart, sit in stillness. Read your statement aloud. Now let go of the words and focus on the feeling. What does peace and harmony feel like? Is it a lightness in your chest, a spreading warmth? Intentionally generate that feeling. Let it fill your heart. Hold your aim steady, the will. While sustaining the feeling, visualize a brilliant beam of light emanating from your heart center, carrying that intention and emotion, shooting straight forward like an unwavering arrow. Hold this image and feeling steadily for 1 to 2 minutes. Don't be distracted by thoughts of doubt. If they arise, gently return your focus to the feeling and the beam of light. Release. After a few moments, take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, imagine you are releasing that arrow into the universe. Let it go with absolute faith that it will find its target. Practice this ritual daily. You are no longer a fragmented thinker. You are becoming a master archer of reality, one who can command the universe with a single arrow, forged from the unification of mind, heart, and will. Chapter 3. The Seal of the Word. At the edge of the village, in a stone workshop layered with the dust of time, lived a man named Marius. Once the most revered stone sculptor in the region, he now lived in solitude and bitterness. Years ago, a single mistake, a tiny fissure that appeared on a marble statue destined for the king, had ruined his reputation. From that day forward, there was a story he never stopped telling anyone who would listen, and more importantly, never stopped whispering to himself, "My hands are cursed. I am a failure." That sentence, repeated 10,000 times, had become a self-inflicted curse. It was no longer a story about the past. It had become a command that was programming his present reality. His once gifted hands were now stiff with ailment. He lived in poverty, and people slowly drifted away, not because of his past mistake, but because of the heavy energy of self-reproach he constantly radiated. His words had built a prison, and he was its sole inmate and warden. One day, a young man named Leo, who had grown up on legends of Marius's work, came to the stone workshop. He wanted to be an apprentice. Marius scoffed and shooed him away. "Go away, boy. These hands can create nothing but ruin." But Leo was undeterred. He didn't argue with Marius's old story. Instead, he came every day, quietly cleaned the workshop, and began to sow new seeds of language. "These are the hands that carved the lion of the citadel," Leo would say, looking at Marius's calloused hands. "I see the soul of the stone waiting for their touch." At first, Marius brushed him off, but Leo's words, repeated daily with a steady sincerity, were like drops of water wearing away stone. They began to overwrite the old toxic story that had imprisoned Marius for so many years. One day, Leo brought a soft block of plaster and placed it in the old man's hands. "Master," the young man said, "please tell this stone a new story." Marius hesitated. For the first time in decades, instead of repeating the old curse, he tremblingly whispered Leo's words. "These hands, they understand the stone." The moment the words were spoken, a strange warmth spread through his knuckles. The stiffness seemed to melt away. He began to carve. Not a great masterpiece, just a small bird. But the lines were soft, alive. When it was finished, Marius looked at it and tears streamed down his cheeks. He hadn't broken a curse. He had simply used a more powerful word to impress a new seal. The word, the tool for programming reality. We often think of words as tools to describe the world. The deeper truth is, these words are tools to create the world. They are the most primal programming tool. Marius's story wasn't about old age or fading talent. It was about a computer program that had been running for too long on a single line of faulty code. Words are for programming, not just communication. The highest function of language is not to describe or inform, but to program and configure your energy field and the field around you. Each word you utter is a line of code sent into the universal energy field. The universe does not judge, it simply executes. The universe responds to the vibration of the word, not its content. The universe doesn't understand the logic or semantics of French, English, or any other language. It responds only to the emotional charge and vibrational pattern your words carry. Marius's curse, "I am a failure," was so potent because it was loaded with the energy of shame, regret, and self-judgment. A thank you spoken with a sincere heart has more power to alter reality than an eloquent but hollow speech. Every word is an energetic seal. Once spoken, a word doesn't vanish into thin air. It creates a seal, an energetic form in the quantum field. This seal continues to exist and emit its vibration until it is overwritten by another more powerful and consistent seal. Leo's persistent repetition created a new, stronger seal that liberated Marius. The internal dialogue is the most powerful of all. What Marius said to Leo was only the tip of the iceberg. The true power of the curse lay in the dialogue he had repeated millions of times in his own mind. What you say aloud matters far less than what you whisper to yourself when no one is listening. This internal dialogue becomes your baseline vibrational template, the deepest cause configuring your health, relationships, and circumstances. The power of naming. The merchant Isolde, having learned the lesson of unifying thought and emotion, found her business improving daily. But an uneasiness still lingered, a vague fear that it could all disappear. She feared thieves, a bad season of trade, losing everything she had built. This fear had no name. It was a ghost that haunted her mind, preventing her from truly enjoying her success. By chance, she met the old traveler again by a village well. She told him of her success, but could not hide the anxiety in her eyes. He looked deeply into them and asked a simple question: "What is the name of the thief you fear?" Isolde was taken aback. She had never thought about it. She just felt afraid. "Name it," the traveler continued, his voice gentle. "Do not let it be a nameless ghost, for that which is nameless will rule you from the shadows. Look it in the eye." That evening Isolde sat alone in her stall. She closed her eyes and looked into the darkness within. She saw the fear, and she named it. She whispered, "I see you. You are the fear of loss." The act of naming was extraordinary. The moment it had a name, the fear was no longer an invisible, all-powerful phantom. It became something concrete, separate from her. It was no longer her. It was something she was feeling. Once she could identify it, she could work with it. She could speak to it. "I see you, fear of loss. I thank you for trying to protect me, but I now choose trust. I am safe." By naming it and speaking to it, she reclaimed her power. Her word had turned an unconscious ruler into a manageable object. Her internal dialogue had shifted from, "What if I lose everything?" to, "I am safe and I am grateful for what I have." True silence is the presence of pure vibration. The silence sought by sages is not the absence of sound. It is the state of purified language and inner stillness, where contradictory words and negative dialogues have ceased. It is a space where only the pure, consistent vibration of your chosen truth is present. Speaking little but from the soul has more power than 1,000 empty words. Practice auditing and rewriting your verbal covenants. This is a two-part exercise to reclaim your power of the word. Part 1. The Energy Audit Naming. For the next 24 hours, become a silent observer of yourself. Carry a small piece of paper or make a mental note. Listen for the phrases and stories you repeat, both out loud and in your head. "I'm so tired. I can never get it right. This is so hard. I'm so stupid. Nothing good ever happens to me." Do not judge, just notice them. This is the act of naming the energetic seals that are quietly running your life. Part 2. Rewriting the covenant. Imprinting a new seal. Now sit with your list. Next to each negative statement, write a new covenant, a statement that carries the energy you want to live in. Make it feel believable and powerful. "I'm so tired. I am allowing my body to rest and recharge. I can never get it right. I am learning and growing every day. Every experience is valuable. This is so hard. I have the strength to move through this challenge." Choose one or two new covenants that are most important to you. For the next few days, every time you catch yourself running the old program, pause. Take a deep breath. Then consciously speak aloud or in your head your new covenant. Feel the shift in your energy as you do. You are becoming a conscious programmer of your reality. You are learning to use language not as a mirror reflecting the world, but as a smith's hammer to shape it. Chapter 4. The Mirror Within. In a small cobbled alley of the capital lived a painter named Lena. She was once known for paintings that pulsed with life, for colors that could make a viewer feel the warmth of the sun and smell the fragrance of flowers. But now her studio was filled with dark, chaotic works. Years ago, Lena had witnessed a terrible fire that consumed her childhood home. Ever since the image of the flames, their furious orange, the black of smoke and ash, was seared into her mind like a scar that would not heal. Now, no matter if she tried to paint a hopeful dawn or a child's face, the colors of destruction would creep in. Her brushstrokes, though intended to create life, would unconsciously recreate the chaos of the flames. She didn't realize that she was continuously engaged in an act of immensely powerful unconscious visualization. The image of past trauma was constantly shaping and projecting a correspondingly chaotic creation in her present. As fate would have it, Lena was commissioned by the royal family to paint the portrait of the newborn princess, a symbol of hope for the entire kingdom. Lena felt honored but also terrified. She tried with all her might to capture the infant's innocence, but the image of the fire was a haunting specter. The baby's swaddling cloth would take on the hue of embers in her mind, and the shadows in the room looked like smoke. Her effort to create a new and beautiful image failed miserably because the old, powerful image had never been cleansed. In her desperation, Lena sought out the old stone sculptor Marius, who had by now become known for his quiet wisdom. Marius offered no advice on painting techniques. He simply looked at her unfinished canvases and said, "You cannot paint a new world over an old one that is still burning. First, you must let the old fire burn out." He didn't advise her to fight or banish the image. He guided her to face it. "Sit," he said, "and allow the image of the fire to arise. But this time, do not look at it as a victim. Be the observer. Thank the fire for teaching you the lesson of impermanence. Then in your mind, use love to slowly pour cool, clear water over it until the fire is extinguished, leaving only fertile ash for a new beginning." Lena followed his advice. It was a painful process, but she persisted. Every day she sat in stillness, facing her horrific memory and using the inner image of peace to heal it. Gradually, the emotional charge of the traumatic event dissolved. She was cleansing her inner mirror. When she returned to the princess's portrait, her mind was a placid lake. This time, she didn't try to imagine an image. She simply held the feeling of pure love and new life and allowed the image to arise on its own from that state of fullness. The finished portrait was a masterpiece. It captured not just the child's likeness, but the very soul of hope. Lena had learned the deepest lesson: the inner mirror must be wiped clean before it can reflect beauty into the outer world. The law of reflection. Lena's story reveals one of the most fundamental and subtle laws of creation. Outer reality has no power to decide for itself. It is merely a faithful reflection of what is held steadily within. The inner image arranges outer reality. Visualization is not a psychological trick. It is a foundational creative act. A consistently held inner image acts as an energetic template, a vibrational geometry that directly arranges and organizes atoms, people, and circumstances on the outside to reflect itself. Cleanse first, create later. This is the supreme rule. The most important work of a master of reality is not trying to project new images. The first and non-negotiable task is to purify, deprogram, and dissolve the old negative images that currently exist in the energy field. You cannot build a stable tower on the broken foundation of unhealed trauma. Create from fullness, not from lack. Lena's initial efforts failed because they came from a place of lack, a lack of peace, a lack of control. Her final success came from a state of fullness, being filled with love and hope. If you visualize money from a feeling of poverty, you will only attract more circumstances that remind you of your poverty. Visualize from the feeling of already being wealthy. Remembering the rain. The Knight Kael, now a respected leader, faced a new challenge. A long drought was draining the life from the kingdom. The people prayed for rain, but their prayers were filled with desperation and fear. They were visualizing rain from a place of lacking rain. The collective energy of scarcity only made the sky clearer. Kael remembered the lesson that had made him a champion. You must become it on the inside first. He realized they were approaching it all wrong. He gathered the people not to beg, but to perform a ritual of memory. Do not beg for the rain, he told them, his voice firm. Remember it. Close your eyes and remember the smell of damp earth after the first shower. Remember the sound of drops on the rooftops. Remember the cool feeling as the water washes away the dust. Remember the joy of a bountiful harvest. That reality already exists. We only need to tune ourselves to its frequency. And this was the revolutionary difference. Visualization is remembering, not imagining. Imagining something you don't have reinforces the vibration of lack. Remembering a reality that already exists in the realm of potential is an act of claiming it as yours. The people followed his lead. The kingdom's collective energy shifted from desperate pleading to nostalgic gratitude. They weren't trying to create an uncertain future. They were anchoring themselves to an eternal truth. A few days later, dark clouds began to gather on the horizon. The rain came not as a miracle granted to beggars, but as the universe's natural response to a resonant invitation. They had learned to remember the future. Sustained stability is more important than fleeting emotion. The rain did not come after a single explosive prayer session. It came after days of the people persistently holding the memory and feeling of water's abundance. The power of an image lies not in its momentary intensity, but in the vibrational stability maintained over time. Holding an image with your whole being, clear mind, stable emotion, and firm will is the key. Practice cleansing the mirror and remembering the future. This practice has two parts corresponding to the two most important steps in the art of visualization. Part 1. Cleansing the mirror. Devote 3 to 5 days to this. Identify a negative recurring image or memory that is affecting your life. A failure, a criticism, a loss. Each day, spend 10 minutes sitting in silence. Allow the image to arise without judgment or resistance. Observe it as if watching an old film. As the image appears, say to it silently, "I see you. I thank you for the lesson you brought me." Then visualize a source of brilliant golden white light or any healing image you prefer, like clear water slowly enveloping the negative image. See the light gently dissolving the image, neutralizing its emotional charge until only a clear, peaceful space remains in your mind. Repeat this process daily until you feel the image no longer has power over you. Part 2. Remembering the future after the cleansing. Choose one thing you wish to create. Instead of wishing for it, shift your perspective. This is a memory from your future self who has already achieved it. Close your eyes and ask yourself, what does it feel like to remember having achieved your desire? Let the memory wash over you. Use all your senses. What did you see? Hear, most importantly, what was the dominant feeling? Relief, joy, deep gratitude. Dwell in that memory with the calm certainty of something that has already happened. There is no wanting, only recognition. Practice for 5 to 10 minutes daily. You are learning to use your inner cinema, not to replay old tragedies, but to preview the beautiful films that are already destined for you. Chapter 5. The Signature of the Soul. In a small attic overlooking the mossy rooftops of the capital lived a young musician named Elian. The lute in his hands could weave melodies of heartbreaking beauty, songs of friendship and joyful gatherings. It was everything he longed for. But Elian's own life was a song in stark contrast. He lived in solitude, rarely spoke to anyone, and always carried himself with a timid air, as if trying to be invisible. He wanted connection, but his vibrational identity was one of separation. He unconsciously believed he was an outsider, different from everyone else. Elian had auditioned for the Royal Orchestra countless times. His technique was flawless, but the old maestro always shook his head. "Your music has no soul, young man," he would say. "It has technique, but it is hollow." Elian was crushed. He couldn't understand why his melodies of joy sounded so empty. He didn't realize that an audience doesn't just hear the notes. They feel the source of the notes, the artist's profound loneliness. He was attracting more isolation because the loner was his vibrational name. One afternoon, Elian met the painter Lena in a gallery. Lena, who now radiated a quiet confidence, saw Elian's posture and recognized her former self in him. She didn't offer him musical advice. She asked a piercing question, "Who are you when you are not holding the lute?" The question stunned Elian. He had always defined himself by what he did, by what he wanted. The world doesn't respond to the song you play, Lena continued, her voice full of empathy. It responds to the silence from which the song arises. Lena's words planted a seed. Elian went back to his room and put his lute down. For 1 week, he didn't play a single note. Instead, he practiced a much harder art embodiment. He practiced being the person he wanted to become. He forced himself to walk with a straight back, his head held high. He went to the marketplace and practiced making small talk with the vendors. He visited Marius's stone workshop and learned to enjoy quiet companionship. He was reconfiguring his very source, changing the energetic signature of his being. When he picked up the lute again, he no longer played from a place of longing for connection. He played from a place of being connection. His music had changed. It had a depth, a warmth it never had before. At his next audition, the maestro stopped him mid-song, not to dismiss him, but to say, with a smile, "Welcome to the orchestra." Outer reality had no choice but to rearrange itself to match the new signature of his soul, the law of the signature. Elian's story illustrates the ultimate and final law of creation. It is no longer about what you do, but about who you are. You attract who you vibrationally are, not what you want. This is the core truth. The universe does not respond to your surface wants or affirmations. It responds to the vibrational identity you consistently maintain in silence, who you truly are on an energetic level. Elian wanted companionship, but he was solitude. The universe answered who he was, not what he wanted. You are the projector, not the magnet. Abandon the image of a passive magnet waiting for things to come to you. You are a projector, an active broadcaster. The world around you is a blank screen, and you are constantly projecting the film of your inner identity onto it. The game-changing question: from which identity are you wanting? The critical question is not, what do I want, but from which vibrational identity am I wanting this? Desiring wealth from an identity of lack creates resistance. Longing for love from an identity of unworthiness summons abandonment. The source determines everything. To change your destiny is to change your vibrational name. Everyone has a hidden name, a core frequency that represents their true inner state: the loner, the victim, the warrior, the healer. The universe obeys only this name. True spiritual work is not about changing outer circumstances, but about changing this very vibrational name from within. The mirror of repetition. The merchant Isolde, having found prosperity and peace, noticed a new pattern in her life. She kept attracting business partners who seemed trustworthy at first, but eventually tried to deceive or take advantage of her. She wanted sincere relationships, but her reality was a series of small betrayals. She sought out the old traveler who was preparing for a long journey. "To know your secret name," he said, "stop analyzing your thoughts. Look at what the world writes for you over and over. Your life is the most honest mirror." Isolde reflected. She realized that deep down she still carried an ingrained belief from her difficult past. "I must always be on guard because sooner or later people will let me down." That was her identity, the one who must be watchful. She was unconsciously projecting suspicion, and the universe, in perfect resonance, sent her people who would validate that belief. Identify your signature through repetition. The patterns, events, and types of people that repeat in your life are not random. They are the most accurate mirror of the core frequency you are broadcasting. Repetition is the universe's language for telling you what your name is. Isolde understood. The work was not to find more trustworthy people. The work was to become an intrinsically safe and trusting person. She began to practice a new identity, secure integrity. She communicated with an open yet discerning heart instead of a suspicious one. Gradually, the partners she attracted began to change. They were people who mirrored her own integrity and inner security. The pattern was broken because the source of the projector had been reconfigured. Transformation happens through embodiment, not mere affirmation. A vibrational identity cannot be changed by words or thoughts alone. It is transformed only through conscious practice and embodiment. This is the pinnacle of creative work. You don't try to become, you are. Practice reading your signature and embodying your new name. This is the most important exercise on this journey. It requires honesty and courage. Part 1. Reading your current signature. Take a piece of paper, write down the 3 most common negative patterns that repeat in your life. E.g., I am always abandoned in relationships. I am never recognized at work. I always have money problems at the last minute. Look at that list. Now ask the power question. To have these things happen continuously, who must I have been unconsciously believing I am? What is my vibrational name? Write that name down. Perhaps it's the abandoned one, the invisible one, or the victim of circumstance. Look at it without judgment. This is simply a program that is running. Acknowledging it is the first step to changing it. Part 2. Embodying the new name. Now choose a new vibrational name you wish to become. Don't pick something too distant. Choose a core quality. For example, peaceful presence, joyful creator, quiet strength. For the next 7 days, your task is not to affirm this name, but to embody it. Constantly ask yourself throughout the day, how would a person who is new name walk? How would they breathe? How would they react to this news? How would they look at other people? Act as if you are already that person. Stand a little straighter if your name is quiet strength. Smile at a stranger if your name is joyful creator. Make one small decision from a place of peace instead of a place of fear. This is transformation at a cellular level. You are teaching your body and your energy field a new song. Gradually, inevitably, outer reality will have to harmonize with the new signature you have become. Chapter 6. The Out-of-Tune Symphony. On a windswept coast, the master shipbuilder Finian was overseeing the greatest work of his life. It was a revolutionary vessel, the Star Chaser, designed to glide across the sea faster than anything ever created. The blueprint in his thoughts was perfect. The passion for the sea in his emotions was immense. His words to all were filled with confidence, and yet deep within Finian a dissonant note was quietly playing, a single note of doubt. What if I've miscalculated? What if the ship shatters in a gale? This doubt wasn't loud, it was an undercurrent, a subtle tremor in his creative symphony. As the ship neared completion, strange problems began to arise. A perfect oaken plank would split for no reason. The strongest ropes would suddenly fray. Yesterday's precise measurements would be inexplicably off today. These weren't catastrophic failures, but a series of small, baffling setbacks that constantly slowed progress. The universe wasn't canceling his project. It was precisely mirroring the distortion in his energy. It was bringing him a half-realized reality, a magnificent ship riddled with latent flaws, reflecting the half-hearted belief of its creator. In his frustration, Finian sought out the musician Elian, whose orchestra was now famous throughout the kingdom. He complained of the bad luck plaguing his shipyard. Elian listened and then said, "Master Finian, a ship is like a symphony. Every plank, every rope must sing the same song. If a conductor's heart carries the fear that a violin will be out of tune, that very fear becomes a note in the symphony, creating dissonance. What is the name of the note of fear your heart is playing?" Elian's words were a wake-up call. Finian realized his doubt was that dissonant note. He returned to the shipyard and halted all work. This time he didn't try to fight or suppress the doubt. He named it the fear of a grand failure. He acknowledged its presence, dragging it into the light. Then he began the process of vibrational replacement. He walked the length of the ship, touching every plank. Instead of trying to reassure himself, he actively generated and broadcast a new, purer, and more powerful vibration. He spoke to the ship not with boastfulness, but with a quiet certainty. He visualized it sailing safely through a storm. He unified his thoughts, emotions, words, and even his actions into a single song, a harmonious symphony called Strength and Safety. When work resumed, the strange problem ceased. The Star Chaser was completed flawlessly. On its maiden voyage, it proved to be not only the fastest ship, but also uncannily steady against the high waves. Finian had learned to tune his inner symphony. The law of harmony. The universe's creation is not a mechanical process, but an artistic one. It demands absolute harmony. Finian's story shows us what happens when the symphony is out of tune. Doubt is inverted creation. Doubt is not harmless caution. It is a creative act in the opposite direction. It doesn't cancel your desire, it distorts it. It is a vibrational virus that creates cracks and warps in the energetic template you send out. The universe mirrors your distortion. When you broadcast a contradictory signal wanting success while fearing failure, the universe doesn't reject you. It mirrors that exact distortion. It brings you half-baked realities, unsatisfying outcomes, and broken paths. You get back the same inconsistency you broadcast. Finian's cracked planks were a reflection of his own fractured belief. Internal contradiction is a command for chaos. Every time there is a conflict between thought, "This ship will succeed," and emotion, "But what if it fails?" you are sending a contradictory command to the universe. This is the root of all failure, where you accidentally nourish the very opposite of what you desire. Total alignment is the prerequisite. Stable creation only occurs when there is absolute alignment. An idea can only manifest into a solid form when it is held as a single unified vibration across every level of your being. Thought, emotion, word, and body must all sing the same song. Clarity is the ultimate power. The merchant Isolde, who had mastered her own identity, now faced a new test. A large and powerful merchants' guild sought to pressure and intimidate her out of the marketplace. Years ago, a situation like this would have surely triggered her victim identity or fear of loss, creating an internal conflict between her desire to stay and her fear of being hurt. But the Isolde of today was different. Her symphony had been tuned. Her thought, "I have a right to be here. My business is honest and serves the community." Clear her emotion. A solid peace, a sense of inner safety with no fear or anger. Stable her word. When facing the guild's representatives, her voice was calm but firm. She didn't argue or defend, but simply spoke her truth. Consistent her action. Her posture was relaxed and open. She didn't back down, continuing her business as usual, with warmth. Aligned. Her entire being was broadcasting a single, pure, and powerful signal: secure integrity. There were no cracks in her energy field for the threats to enter. The guild's aggressive words seemed to slide off the unshakable surface of her peace. Baffled by an opponent who refused to engage in their war, they eventually left her alone. Isolde won not by fighting, but by being whole. Clarity is the state of no contradiction. Ultimate creative power comes from clarity. Clarity in this sense is not intellectual cleverness. It is the state of a soul that has ceased to argue and conflict with itself. When your inner world is no longer at war, your energy field becomes as pure as a diamond, and the universe can respond to your command with precision and without distortion. Practice tuning your inner symphony. This exercise helps you identify the dissonant notes within you and tune them into harmony. Part 1. Identifying the dissonance. Choose one area of your life where you feel stuck or are getting mixed results. Take a piece of paper and divide it into 4 sections: thought, emotion, word, action. Honestly write down what is truly happening in each section regarding your goal. For example, if the goal is to be in a harmonious romantic relationship. Thought, "I want to meet a loving and understanding person." Emotion, I feel lonely, afraid of being hurt again, and doubtful that anyone suitable is out there. Word to friends. Dating is so hard these days, there are no good people left. Action. Staying home to watch movies alone instead of going out to meet people. Look at these 4 sections. Do you see the dissonance? You are playing 4 different songs at once. This is the command for chaos you are sending. Part 2. Composing the harmony. Now choose one clear note that you want your entire being to play. It should be a state of being. For example, secure openness or ready for love. Rewrite all 4 sections as if you were already that person. Name of note: secure openness. Thought: I am ready for a beautiful relationship. My heart is safe to love. Emotion: feeling a sense of peace, gentle excitement, and trust in life. Word: when asked, I'm enjoying my life and I'm open to new connections. Action: smiling at strangers, joining a class or activity that I love. For the next week, your only task is to practice this harmony. Every time you catch yourself playing a dissonant note, e.g., a feeling of doubt arises, don't suppress it. Gently acknowledge it. Ah, there is the old note. And then intentionally return to playing your new note. You are learning to be your own conductor, ensuring that every instrument in your inner orchestra is tuned to play one single magnificent and harmonious symphony. Chapter 7. The Soil of the Soul. On the peak of a high mountain where the air was crisp and silent, lived an old herbalist named Lyra. People sought her out not just for her healing plants, but for her ability to read what the naked eye could not see. On a late summer day, a strange reunion took place at her simple wooden home. There was Alara the potter, whose hands now created flawless works. There was Kael the knight, who was now a revered leader. There was Liam the scholar, whose words carried the weight of reconciliation. There was Lena the painter, whose art radiated the light of healing. There was Finian the shipbuilder, whose vessels sailed like a dream. There was Isolde the merchant, whose integrity was her greatest asset. And there was Elian the musician, whose melodies moved the hardest of hearts. They were masters of their own realities, but they had come here together drawn by a shared sense that there was still an invisible veil, a deeper layer they had not yet reached. Despite their success, each still perceived a familiar flavor in their challenges. Kyle, though a leader, sometimes felt the echo of the lone warrior. Isolde, though secure, would occasionally feel the ghost of watchfulness. They had changed the tree, but the soil in which the tree grew seemed to hold old memories. Lyra did not listen to their stories. She simply sat in silence and felt the atmosphere surrounding each person. After a long moment, she pointed to the ancient forest that ringed her home. "This forest," she said, her voice as deep as the earth, "is a living record of 1,000 seasons. The soil remembers every fire, every drought, every great tree that has fallen. So it is with the soil of your soul. It is enveloped by an energy field, its own private land. You have all planted magnificent new trees on that land. But the soil itself, your energy field, still holds the memory of old stories, even from lifetimes you no longer remember. Those memories will continually sprout familiar weeds until you change the very nature of the soil itself." A profound silence of understanding fell over the group. They realized the final work was not just to change their thoughts, words, or even their identity. The final work was to recultivate the entire soil of the soul, to reprogram their very energy fields. The law of the atmosphere. Your energy field is not an abstract concept. It is your deepest reality, a subtle organ of perception and creation that constantly operates according to immutable laws. The energy field is a living record. The energy atmosphere surrounding you is a real and highly sensitive record. It constantly records, stores, and broadcasts every frequency you persistently maintain, every thought, emotion, image, and core identity. It is the most honest diary of who you are. There is no randomness, only feedback. The energy field does not judge. It does not distinguish between what you want and what you fear. It simply and faithfully mirrors what has been recorded within it in the form of circumstances, events, and people. Your life is not a series of random events. It is an accurate playback of what is recorded in your energy field. Unresolved vibrations will always return. Any energy, any pattern that has not been resolved and transformed does not simply disappear. It remains as a seed in the soil of your soul. It will continually seek expression on the outside in different forms to be noticed and completed. This is the deepest reason why old problems, toxic relationships, or familiar failures keep repeating. You repeat old stories if you don't reprogram the field. The soul carries an energy field containing patterns from many lifetimes and from your ancestry. Without consciously cleansing and reprogramming this field with a new frequency, you will be compelled to relive those old stories and patterns, albeit in different contexts and disguises in this life. Transformation demands persistence, not temporary effort. The soil of the soul does not respond to short-term intentions or explosive efforts. It responds only to sustained and long-term inhabitants. To overwrite an old pattern that is centuries deep, you must inhabit a new frequency consistently and without interruption, until that new frequency becomes the natural climate of your land. Your atmosphere is your deepest reality. Your reality is shaped not by what you do or say, but by the energetic atmosphere you radiate in silence and when no one is watching. That is your vibrational truth, the wordless prayer you are constantly sending to the universe. Change the atmosphere before you change the action. This is the key to root-level mastery. Do not rush to change your outer actions. Change your atmosphere first. This is done not by declaring, but by being and embodying a new frequency until it becomes your natural, effortless state. When the atmosphere changes, right action flows from it automatically. Practice cultivating the soil of your soul. This is the exercise that integrates all you have learned. It is no longer a technique to do, but a way to be. Part 1. Choose the climate for your soil. Based on your entire journey, choose one core state of being that you want to become the permanent climate of your energy field. This will be your supreme vibrational name. It should be simple and all-encompassing. Examples: creative peace, overflowing gratitude, unconditional love, joyful presence. Part 2. Living in the new climate. This is not a 10-minute exercise. This is a moment-to-moment commitment. Upon waking, before your feet touch the floor, the first thing you do is close your eyes, breathe, and consciously generate the feeling of your chosen climate. Bathe in it. Let it be the first color of your day. Throughout the day, set anchor points for yourself as reminders. For example, every time you walk through a doorway, pause for 3 seconds. Breathe in. Breathe out. Reconnect to the feeling of your climate. Let it become the background music to all your activities when a challenge appears. When an old weed sprouts a fear, a flash of anger, do not fight it. Smile, acknowledge it. I see you, old pattern, and then gently but firmly return your attention to radiating the light of your chosen climate. It is the light that weakens the weed, not your resistance to it. Before sleep, the last thing you do is once again immerse your consciousness in the feeling of your chosen climate. Let it be the final frequency your energy field records and reinforces during sleep. By practicing this, you are no longer a person trying to change reality. You become a sun, and reality, like the planets, has no choice but to orbit and reflect the light you persistently radiate. You are cultivating your own soil. Chapter 8. The Soul's Map Etched on the Flesh. Liam, the wise scholar who wove peace with words, was silently battling a war within his own body. A chronic ache and stiffness clung to his neck and shoulders, unyielding to Lyra's herbs or any amount of rest. He saw it as a physical weakness, a betrayal of his sharp intellect by his own body. When the king entrusted Liam with the monumental task of rewriting the national history, a job demanding months hunched over parchment scrolls, despair settled in. His mind was ready, but his body seemed to revolt. The pain made the prospect feel like torture. In an attempt to find some solace, Liam sought out Finian's shipwright workshop. He watched the master craftsman glide his hands over the wood grains, feeling every subtle curve and indentation. Finian noticed Liam's distressed posture and made a surprising remark. "A ship's mast must bear the tension of the entire vessel. If it's not perfectly aligned with the keel, it will groan and risk breaking. Your shoulders, what unseen weight are they carrying for you, my friend?" The question struck Liam like a bolt of lightning. He froze. This pain wasn't just physical. He realized that for years as a diplomat and scholar, he had carried the weight of countless unspoken words, truths he knew but couldn't write, compromises that went against his deepest integrity. The weight of the world quite literally had settled onto his shoulders. Suppressed anger at injustices, the weariness of maintaining a conciliatory facade, none of it had vanished. It had been sealed into the very fibers of his shoulder and neck muscles. Liam didn't return to his study. He sought out a quiet spot in the forest. He no longer tried to cure or fix his shoulders. He learned to listen to them. He sat in silence, allowing memories of compromises and buried truths to surface. He didn't judge, merely observed. He breathed deeply, directing his attention to the aching points, and a miraculous, profound release began to unfold. The pain gradually receded, not because of a remedy, but because the message it carried had finally been heard. Liam had learned his final, most intimate lesson. The body was never the enemy. It was always the soul's most loyal and devoted messenger. The law of the vibrational temple. Your body isn't a vehicle you drive or a tool you own. You don't have a body. You are this body. It is the most tangible, physical, and direct manifestation of the very vibrational frequency that you are. The body is a vibrational temple, not a biological machine. View your body as a sacred resonant temple. Every organ, every cell within it is a string tuned to vibrate with the frequency of your soul, with the energetic atmosphere you maintain. The body is the first and most honest mirror. Before imbalance manifests as an argument, a professional setback, or an accident, it first shows up in the body. Every suppressed emotion, every unspoken truth, every untransformed energy doesn't simply disappear. It gets sealed and stored in your body as tension, aches, fatigue, and illness. Liam's pain was the physical condensation of unseen burdens. Each organ holds a corresponding emotion. Energy is intelligent. Each emotion has its own frequency and will tend to reside in a body part with a similar frequency. Fear often settles in the lower abdomen and kidneys. Sadness and loss frequently constrict the chest and lungs. Anger and the burden of responsibility often solidify in the shoulders, neck, and jaw. Your physical body is an emotional map telling you exactly where energy is blocked. The body communicates through symptoms, not failures. This is a fundamental shift in perception. Illness and symptoms are not the body's failure or punishment from the universe. They are the body's honest, perfect, and undeniable way of communicating an imbalance, an inner truth that your mind has ignored or denied. Liam's shoulder pain wasn't a weakness. It was an act of loving and urgent communication. Listen to the body as a prophet. Instead of resisting, ignoring, or blaming your body, learn to inhabit it and listen to it as a prophet, a wise guide who never lies. Begin by asking yourself profound diagnostic questions. Where does my body constrict when I'm about to say something untrue? Where does it ache when I suppress my anger? Does it feel utterly drained when I'm doing work that doesn't align with my soul? Does my heart truly open when I say, I love you? The body is the most powerful tool for truth, discernment, and liberation you possess. It is the bridge connecting the unseen realm of vibration to the tangible realm of reality. Practical exercise, dialogue with the inner prophet. This exercise isn't about healing in the conventional sense. It's about listening and restoring the sacred communication between you and your body. Part 1. Full body scan. Find a quiet place, lie down or sit comfortably. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths, allowing your bodies to relax. Begin by directing your attention to your toes. Don't do anything, simply feel. Then slowly move your attention up your feet, calves, knees, and so on, gradually moving up your entire body. Be a curious explorer. Where do you feel tension? Where is it warm? Where is it cold? Where do you feel emptiness or numbness? Where is it completely relaxed? Simply observe without judgment. Part 2. The silent dialogue. Now choose an area of your body where you feel the most distinct sensation. It could be tension, pain, or any other feeling. Gently place one or both hands on that area if possible. This action shows care and attentiveness. Breathe into that very area, imagining your breath bringing care and space to it. In your mind, silently ask that body part a few questions with sincerity and openness. Don't expect a verbal answer. Be patient and open to whatever arises. It could be an image, a memory, a word, or just a shift in sensation. If you had a voice, what would you want to tell me? What emotion are you holding for me? What are you trying to protect me from? What do you need from me right now? Stay with whatever answers arise for a few minutes. When you're done, thank your body for sharing its message. Send love and gratitude to that body part for its unwavering service. By practicing this, you are transforming your body from a stranger into a confidant, from a prone-to-breakdown machine into a sacred temple, and from a source of suffering into your wisest prophet.